Come on in. We got a lot of seats over here available. Hey, I'm going to pray and we're going to get going. God, thank you so much for this morning. It is a great day in Modesto. And God, we are so grateful that we get to be a part of this town and that we all get to work together for the good of this town. And God, I just pray for this morning that you would lead and guide the time that we're going to have, because I just believe we're going to have an incredible morning, and what an amazing way to start off our morning. So in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen. All right, hey, I want to welcome you all here to our Catalyst gathering. If you are new here, how many, maybe this is one of your first time being here? Oh, wonderful. Awesome. Well, we want to welcome you guys who are here for the first time, as well as everyone's here. Maybe you come every month, or you come when you can come. What this is, real simply, is this monthly gathering, the first Thursday in every month, 7 a.m. to 8:10. We end right on time, usually. We gather like this every month. And who is in this room is some amazing people. A bunch of us who are leaders, influencers, anybody and everybody, in a sense, in this town we love to work together. We love not to just be alone in our own little worlds, but we believe that we are better when we're working and serving our community together than if we're doing it alone. Are you with me? And that's what this is all about, and I love this. Every highlight of my month, and I know it is for many of you as well, to come together like this. Hey, by the way, my name's Jeff, and I want to thank you. This last week and a half ago, or almost 2 weeks ago, we had this day called Love Modesto, and it was all of you. I mean, seriously, it wasn't just an incredible day. And what I love so much about that day is all the other days of the year. that day hopefully really encouraged so many of you and so many of the people that you serve to keep loving our city and serving and getting involved. That's what's going to make our city a better place. Not the one day does great things, but it's the rest of the year that has the long-lasting results here. If you are here for the first time, we have a little flyer on the table. Please sign that's little. Here, let me wave it so you can see it here. Please sign that. We want to know that you're here and keep in touch with you the best we can. And then also on the tables, for all the regular people, we've got the regular people. We got these regular sign-in sheets as well. If you can sign those, we would appreciate it. If you have something going on, some event coming up, I talked to someone earlier about a fundraiser, let us know. We want to help you get the word out on it. We're here to serve you. So we want to help get the word out on any events, fundraisers, or anything like that you have coming up here. Hey, also on your table, there's this flyer, the Catalyst, the program flyer. If you turn to the side that says Community Networks, I don't know about you, but this is really cool. Look at all these networks that we know of that are happening in our town throughout the week or the month. If you fit into one of these, if you identify with one of these, man, we'd encourage you to call them and contact them and check it out, because there might be some amazing support for you and what you're doing and serving, our community. Then if you turn to the other side, you'll see kind of what we're talking about today, emotionally healthy leadership. And then next month, check out June 2nd. Next month, a better way to resolve conflict. That's going to be our theme that we're going into next month. Let me ask you a question. Any one of you here in your leadership, have you ever experienced conflict in leading before? Anybody? Yeah. All of us. and if you're like me, you haven't always dealt with conflict well. And you don't like conflict. I don't like conflict. And so therefore I don't like it, so I try to avoid it, and then I don't deal with it well, and then it becomes a bigger issue. This is an issue that we all need to improve at, right? And so next month, our catalyst, Marty Villa, who's right over here, stand up, Marty. Marty's going to be our presenter next month. And we're doing something really special, really unique, is that Marty's going to give more of an overview. He's going to talk about this issue in this Catalyst gathering. And then afterwards, he's going to put on a 2-hour seminar. It'll be right here. It'll be a room right near here, starting at 8:30, a 2-hour seminar, really dive into this more. He's going to give a lot of practical tools and helps to help us all work through this more. It's free. It's not, you don't cost anything, but if you can email or call that number on the screen to kind of reserve your spot. We need to know how many copies to print and, things like that. But it's just only 2 hours, and it's going to really build on that topic. So I'm really, really excited about that. All right, let's all stand up. I want you to find one person that you do not know well. All right, I know this is freaking a lot of you out, especially you first-timers, but I'm telling you, you're going to like this. You don't like it right now, but you're going to like it. Hang on now. And share with them a little bit about yourselves. Okay, you got to walk around the room and then ask these 2 questions up on the screen. What is it about leadership that gives you life? What is it about leadership that drains you? Go.
Hi, I'm Scott Miller. I'm the pastor of Recovery and Counseling at Big Valley Grace Church and the current leader of Recovery Modesto. And as a recovering addict myself, years ago I found the benefits of the recovery program that led me to Jesus Christ and His power to transform any heart, including mine. After coming to Christ, I actually was called into ministry and became a pastor, which got me involved in City Ministry Network over a decade ago. And as I began to meet with people with common hearts at CMN, I began to connect with city leaders who viewed the fact that our city would never be transformed without recovery ministries to serve the people who have hurts, habits, hang-ups that are out of control. So we began providing services to those people, and the movement just began to spread as more and more people, more and more churches began to recognize that this is the ministry of the 21st century. I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for Catalyst and City Ministry Network, because the key partners that I have were met there and grew out of it.
Hi, my name is Rick Dahlson. The past few years I've been involved with Catalyst and City Ministry Network, helping out with the recovery programs of Recovery Modesto. For the most part, my involvement in the role of helping to spread the word of recovery, to get other people involved with recovery, to let them know that recovery is not just for people that have specific addictions around alcohol or drugs. Recovery is really for anybody that's suffering from a hurt, a habit, or a hang-up that's controlling their life. So I can definitely say that today I am no longer the person that I was yesterday. And one of the examples I have to share with you about that involves my marriage. So a few months back, I was getting ready to give a testimony at our church about how I've been impacted and benefited from one of the programs under Recovery Modesto. And so I thought, well, I'll just ask my wife, because our pastor, Pastor Rick Countryman, always encourages us to check in with our spouse if we're really not sure about something, and they usually will, deflate the ego and let us know exactly where we stand. So I went to her and I said, honey, do you notice any difference in me today, say, than maybe 3 years ago? And her, without skipping a beat, it was, oh, definitely yes. And I thought, okay, I'm on the right track. So, honey, what do you attribute that to? And she said, your involvement with the recovery program.
Hi, my name is Beatrice. I am in recovery for codependency. I've been in the recovery program for over 10 years. I heard about recovery and I started attending a church that held a Celebrate Recovery program. Through that program, I came to know the steps and surrendered my life to Christ. I'm not the same woman I was. I have values. I know that I'm important because I'm important to God. I've found a new relationship with God, with a church. I'm okay with the church leadership today. In fact, I work alongside of them. I care about others. I value life today. I value my children. I'm available to them. I can can spend time and love on them in a way that I wasn't able to before I came to know the Lord.
My name's Wade, and I'm a leader in the community. I'm a youth pastor at a church. I'm also just a regular man who has had some habits, some hurts, and some hang-ups. I love life to the fullest, but to be totally honest, I've had some rough areas. So I've had some rough times I've needed some serious healing. In my leadership areas, some of my past has actually come up to the point where I didn't trust people, which affected my love. It didn't matter if I was a pastor, it didn't matter if I was just a regular man. I had a love issue. I had a love issue, but even more than a love issue, I needed to be truthful. Truthful with myself first, truthful with God, and truthful with the loved ones around me. You see, as a small child, I had been raped by both a male and a female. That's real. To this day, it still hurts. But I'm recovering. I'm learning how to recover with the help of Celebrate Recovery. And also therapy. And more so than anything else, the Word of God.
Today we're so proud to be a part of a ministry and a movement that allows people to bring those real life issues into church so that they can walk into the light without fear of condemnation or judgment and allow God to begin to heal those issues in their life. If God has spoken to you today, and I trust He has because I've been doing this long enough, then you may want to join us on our mission to see our city transformed through a Christ-centered recovery ministry within walking distance of every neighborhood. You may need that for your own self, and you know God's telling you want to grow and heal some of the hurts, habits, and hang-ups you have in your own life. Or you may just be a city leader who knows the value of what would have been shared with you today, and you want to see it prosper through your influence in some way. No matter how you're hearing from the Lord today, if you are interested, please get in touch with us and become part of maybe the most important movement in the church in this century. Thank you.
Good morning. Just wanted to say that there are a lot of great recovery ministries here in this wonderful city, and we just want to say thank you for what you do. It's an awesome thing. You are truly a blessing, I know, to many people here in this city and myself. We're here to highlight one in particular, though, recovery program. You already saw that. I think Scott has already introduced himself, and I just came up here and validate for you. He's a great friend. He's a great father to 2 sons. He's a great husband to his wife, Susie. And more so than to anything else, he's a great believer in Christ. So would you help me? Please welcome Scott Miller.
Well, obviously, it's an incredible privilege to even be here talking to you, but it's a humbling experience to be asked to speak on something like emotional health. It's kind of like being asked to speak on humility. It's like you can't really win too much on those topics. So the real reason that I was asked to speak on this is my journey of life, and I want to share that with you. I touched on it in one statement there, but when I was 38 years old, which was 26 years ago, I found myself before a court-ordered therapist. I was also court-ordered into this thing called recovery because I was an out-of-control narcotics addict. And as I sat in front of that therapist 26 years ago, and she was a court-ordered therapist, so she saw people like me every day, and she knew what she needed to do. One of the first questions she asked me is, Scott, tell me how you're feeling today. And I looked at her with a blank stare, because I had been using pain narcotics for so long, I had no emotions. I might have been in touch with my emotional well-being enough to say, well, if I have drugs, I feel good. And if I don't have drugs, I feel bad. That's probably the limitations of my emotional health 26 years ago. And that day, she began a journey of educating me and giving me tools to begin to become emotionally aware of who I was as a human being. And today I know full well that to be emotionally healthy and well is to be alive. And it's to know God, because we have an emotional God, at least as I understand him through the Christian faith. And so today I learned that, and even from those early days, she taught me that you have to get emotionally well through spirituality. And that they're deeply intertwined, and you can't be emotionally alive, she taught me, without some type of spiritual health going on in your life to help you emotionally. And that's pretty well understood today in what we call the emotionally healthy movement. It's part of the recovery world today that I'm a part of. And it's pretty well, one of the statements that's said often is that you can't be a spiritually mature and emotionally immature. It's just the connection is too deep, and and our churches, as I'm a pastor today, miraculously, I find that we live in a culture that really struggles to know themselves emotionally, even though they claim to be spiritual. They don't seem to make that connection. So I want to begin with a statement of my God, Jesus, and he made this statement. He says, for whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. And as we read those words, most of us often think that he meant die physically, and that would have been the Greek word bios, but the Greek word here is psyche, not bios. So Jesus was saying to me and to other people, you have to die internally. You have to know what you're giving up, and that's our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and our spirituality, our soul. And we have to know and be aware of those things. And I had to learn all about this stuff to become emotionally healthy at whatever level I am. Please, I'm still a work in progress. But so scripturally, I learned that all of those things are often referred to as our heart. Okay, and that's the metaphor or the scriptural word to pay attention to what's going on inside of you internally. And it's my recognition as now a pastor who teaches emotional health, or I do teach it, but I also walk alongside people who are struggling in these areas, that so many Americans today pay very little attention to these areas of their life. And what happens, and we all see it, is those parts, their thoughts, which produce their feelings, which drive their actions, end up controlling them. And their lives don't produce pretty pictures because they are just unaware often of what's going on inside of them. So what are some ways that we can have signs or signals that we may have emotional immaturity going on in our life? And this is always one of my favorite slides, because it kind of, whenever I show it, the room kind of gets pretty quiet. Because the reality is that there's no person that can't see themselves in that slide somewhere. And if you're sitting here and you don't see yourself in that slide somewhere, then pride might be your emotional issue. But I certainly see myself in that slide. And I can say honestly that 26 years ago, that if somebody had shown me that slide, it would have nailed me to the wall, because I had all of those issues going on in my life at some significant level that was out of control. So I'm just here in the brief time I have, 11 more minutes to share, some things I've learned that would help people get aware of what's going on inside of themselves maybe, and also apply it to their leadership. Because leadership, somebody once said life is rough at the top. And one of the reasons it's rough is that leadership is addictive. It can drive us to a lot of bad things. It's lonely at the top often, and that leaves us at risk as well. But one of the first things I had to learn about being emotionally healthy is that I had to be self-aware, which at one time I had none of that, and I had to be honest with myself. And basically the two principles that we're looking at here is honesty and humility, because the reality is we all got junk, to quote my friend Marvin, and we all got junk. And we love to hide that. We love to keep that in the dark. We love to even deny that it even exists. Denial is an expert thing. And Polonius in the play Hamlet said, "To thine own self be true, then as night follows day, thou wilt not be false with any man." And so honesty and humility lead us to this emotional well-being, where our relationships begin to be healthy, because we're being honest about who we are. And most of us walk around, and years ago I walked around going, well, I can't let anybody know who I am because I'm going to get arrested and I'm going to lose my family. And so I had to hide my deep, dark secrets from everyone. And as I said already, in leadership, we often get to this top place where we know that if we get honest about some of these things that we've been hiding or avoiding our life, we got a whole lot farther to fall than somebody who's at the bottom of the leadership rung. And so we have an even bigger challenge to be self-aware and honest with ourselves. And so it really is important, and I'm going to get to another point here, that you find ways and avenues where you can get self-aware and honest, because it's a pretty scary thing for a lot of leaders. Another thing I had to learn was that I had to learn how to handle the pain and disappointments of life. It was that, nobody struggles with happiness or joy or satisfaction. Those parts of life are quite easy to handle, aren't they? It's the struggles of life that destroy us, because we don't have the emotional maturity to handle those things that aren't going right in our life. And that's what led me to drugs, because I didn't have the emotional tools as a child to handle the disappointments and pains of my home of upbringing and failures with my friends and all the pain that it's just life. There's no apology for the choices I made, but I made very bad choices in ways to learn to handle those pains and disappointments. And so I love this other statement by Jesus. He said, "I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace," which is a wonderful emotion. In fact, in the scripture it says through Jesus we can have a peace that surpasses all understanding. Which is, Jesus said, "I don't give peace as the world gives. I give it differently." And so I found that I had to find that peace through my spiritual nature. And it's interesting, he said, "You will have trouble, but take heart." There's that spiritual word. Take your inner being and give it to a spiritual movement, and let that spirituality make you emotionally healthy, because he has overcome the world. That was his promise. One of my favorite books is called The Gift of Pain. Dr. Paul Brand, he is the leading, he helped solve the problem of leprosy in the 20th century. And he tells this story about America. He grew up in India. He went to England and London during the Blitzkrieg of World War II to be educated, and then he came to America to serve in the leper colony in New Orleans, which is the leading leprosy source in America. And he made this statement of these three places he lived and pain. He says, "I grew up in India where pain is just a fact of life, and people walk around just accepting it because there's no choice. I went to Britain in the Blitzkrieg of World War II and watched people being blown up and handling incredible pain and fear, but they were doing it with joy because they had a cause they believed in. And then I came to America, where there virtually is very little pain by comparison, and nobody knows how to handle it. And we have to recognize as leaders, starting with ourselves, that we, like no other culture in the world, have ways to avoid the pains of life. If we get sad, we can veg out on TV, we can go to a movie, we can look at porn, we can do a million different things that make that pain go away for a moment and give us a worldly temporary fix that always leaves us wanting more with fear and anxiety on both ends of the action. Or we can find it through our spiritual nature, which gives us the true peace that will cause us to not need the world's ways to fix our sadness or our negative emotions. But I know that true spiritual leaders have to get in touch with their negative emotions and how they find themselves dealing with those or acting out when the world gets negative. And for me, I've journaled. I was taught by this therapist years ago and the program of recovery to write down how I'm feeling every day, to be in touch with how I'm feeling every day, to note whether I'm feeling good or bad every day, because to be aware and self-aware and honest about it helps me go, well, I'm not going to make bad choices even though I really am having a bad day today and things aren't going as I would choose. So another thing I had to learn, and this is huge for leaders, at least as I understand it. I'm humbly speaking to leaders in this room, but a leader, emotionally healthy leader, has to know how to say yes and when to say no. And because we have to make decisions, people are following us. And if we're making the wrong choices in what we say yes or no to, then we get emotionally broken, and it starts playing out in our lives, in our relationships. And so one of the things I had to learn was I couldn't find this without my spiritual nature being alive, was that I had to know what my values were. I had to know what my purpose in life was. I had to know what my mission in life was so that I could know what to say yes and no to. Because if you don't know those things, you find your life ruling you and you're just saying yes and no to anything. But I had to discover those things so that I could wake up in the morning as an emotionally healthy leader, hopefully, and make good choices and say, I'll say yes to this and no to this. Because here's what I learned. Those two words, yes and no, will define your life. They are worthy of pondering, of paying attention to, and what you say yes and no to will define your character, your leadership, and your destiny. And I had to really pay close attention to those things, because at one time I was saying yes to all the wrong things and had no ability to say the word no. Literally. I'm also still a people pleaser. And you know what? As a leader, that can get you in big, big trouble. Because if you want to make everybody happy, there's no greater destination for failure, because I can't do that. So I have to learn the ability to say no to somebody. And that's really hard for me. And so that's another area. Jesus, I love this. I just keep it simple. He said, simply let your yes be yes and your no, no. I mean, he just cut right to the chase and said, be true to yourself and don't say yes and no when you don't want to, when you don't need to, or even more importantly, when it's not appropriate to say one or the other. Next, this is huge. I had to have a safe place to be honest about my struggles and sin and issues going on in my life. We all got junk, to quote Marvin. And you know what? That which kept in the dark festers and gets sicker. We have a saying in the recovery world, we're only as sick as our sickest secret. And I've talked to pastors about what I do for a living, and they've literally looked at me and said, you mean you're going to tell me I need to tell my secrets to somebody? And I said, yes, I am, because it's one of the greatest things I ever learned to do. Because can you just imagine the freedom that you have if you're not running from those secrets anymore? It's like the weight is off your shoulders. The guilt is removed because you don't have those secrets anymore. And today, I have a safe place through the methods we train where I can be honest, even as a pastor. And you know what? Pastors got junk just like everybody else. You know, the Bible, Paul in his letter to the Corinthians, he said there is no temptation that isn't common to man or woman. And I have found that it's same story, different person. Doesn't matter what role or what the leadership is, we all struggle with the same types of things. And it's really important for me to have a safe place where I can come and confess. You know, James said in his letter, half-brother of Jesus, he said, confess your sins to one another and pray for each other that you may be healed. And you know what? As believers, I find as a pastor, a lot of people go, I can confess it to God. He's pretty safe. He doesn't come down and do anything to me, and because he's a gentleman and he's safe, so I'll confess my sins to him, but to another human being, no way. But you and I know that there's a whole lot of power and relationship to be built as a leader if you confess it to another person. In fact, John wrote in his book, 1 John, that if we walk in the light as Jesus is in the light, we have fellowship. We have koinonia, a deep relationship. And that's what I find. People are actually attracted to me when I tell them I got issues. Because you know what? They go, me too. But if I come to them and say, I'm a leader, let me tell you all the great things that are happening, big ministry, really successful, they go, I don't feel close to you because I'm not like you. That's not my story. But we all can connect that we all got junk. So we got to have a safe place in our life where we can confess to somebody or to a group. And that's what we do in recovery rooms. And finally, to close, they are in community and leave and serve others out of love. As I began to get emotionally healthy, I found that people began to hang out with me. And they were hanging out with me for way different reasons than they used to, believe me. And it wasn't me choosing or making myself a leader. It was that for some reason, people began to hang out with me in authentic community and connect with me and want to lead with me and want to be a part of my life. And my motives every day, instead of waking up going, I want what I want a drug, and I want to feel better, and I want everything that's good for me, my motives literally today are hugely waking up and caring about other people. And that's the spiritual work, because I didn't choose that. You leave it in my camp, I want to be selfish. But somehow, through the methods of becoming emotionally healthy, my motives began to change, and I began to make a difference in my leadership, and that's still a miracle. So today, Recovery Modesto is a growing collaboration of churches, people, ministries that want to help create the places where people can heal emotionally. And there's a ton of them going on. There's a ton of CRs out there. That's certainly a good one, but Crosspoint has led the way for decades with God's Way Out here in our city, and they are kind of the foundational legacy of recovery in Modesto. Redeemer's doing the Acts 29 redemption groups, which will help people find a place that is emotionally healthy. We've got His Most Excellent Way, the Emotionally Healthy Movement, Prodigal Sons and Daughters. We've got Divorce Care, Grief Share. Chrissy Aguirre leads Surrendering the Secret, a place for people to get emotionally well after abortion. And we've got Wellspring Ministries and Christian counselors throughout our city who that is their job, to provide that safe place for people to become aware, just like that counselor began to save my life 26 years ago. So thank you very much for letting me share. And here's your discussion questions. Just enjoy around the table.
There has not been a day over the last couple of weeks where I have talked to somebody in town or stuck my head in their office, and my first line has been over the last couple of weeks, are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? And you know what's been sad for me is that too many responses from some of us in our city has been, no. I'm miserable. And so I stop to take the time, look them in the eye and say, do you want to roll that out some? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't want to. And I always say, boy, I understand. Me too. The reason this has been so important of a topic today, emotional health of leadership, is that a city will never be transformed until their leaders are transformed. And a city will grow healthy when their influencers are healthy. And that's you. I am so proud to continue to be a part with you in transforming and changing this city to a great place to grow up and grow old. And here's why. Because so many of you are life givers. You give life to individuals, to organizations, to places where you work, to your families. You're life givers. And you are the keeper of that culture. Not just in this building, but when you walk out of the building, you are the keeper and the caster of that vision of healthy leadership. You are the keepers and you are the casters of that. And so to be life givers is so important as we move forward in this city, especially in this culture right now in our country, and really in a lot of sectors in our city where everything is so yucky and so poopy, okay? And sometimes you walk out of a place and you want to go take a shower because it was just. And so I want to encourage you to let's continue to move till health. I've been in leadership for 40 years and in some kind of position or other. And last week I had a friend who had a failure, whatever that would look like. I won't go into specifics. But he is about to lose his family, had lost his career. And sadly, those stories just don't surprise me anymore because there's been so many of them. And they always remind me to wake up call to my fickle soul, to stop and pay attention to myself and to my health. I never knew that I had an emotional tank. I'm a giver. I go, and I help. But I never realized that my emotional tank was dying. And so I was doing these emotional quick fix cures is what I called them. I went out to Mexican food late last night. Does that help you? Okay. And so I'm here this morning feeling like just awful. Because in my mind it's like, okay, see, you did it again. Stress, so what did I do? I ate, and I ate stuff I shouldn't have eaten. And so and I don't want to hear any of you come to me. I know I'm on national whatever now, whatever this is going to be later. So don't come to me and hand me your card and say, come see me, Because I know my emotional, I know my emotional quick fix cure. And I want you to be aware of those things. Because the way I was doing my work the way I was doing life was killing life in me. I was dying on the inside. And there might be some of you this morning, not preaching, I want you to know, there's so many of us who understand. And my challenge was that I had no other model around me that said there's different ways. There's a different way to live your life. There's a different way to do your work that gives you life. I just didn't know. And so we are here this morning to say, as our city is moving toward being an incredible place to grow up in and grow old in, and as we are growing healthy as a city, and I know you hear stories, I know those stories too. But as we're moving in that direction of working together and growing in trust together, I want to encourage you to begin to have those conversations with each other. How are you doing really? And be willing to trust certain people with your stuff, with your junk, because we all got it. I want to encourage you with that. There's no other thing I want to say to you. I love you. I'm so proud of you and what's happening in our city. If our city is going to continue to move toward health, it's going to be those of us in the room and those of us who are missing this morning who want to be life givers, who want to be healthy in every way. And so emotionally health is a huge topic. Now, next month, we're going to look at how to deal with conflict, because that's another one of those life suckers, right? Of how do you deal with conflict, not only with individual relationships, but also in your workplace. How do you deal with those things in an honest, respectful way so that you're not walking around again having the life sucked out of you because you've got this conversation you need to have and you're avoiding it like the plague. And why all that? Because it's been impressed upon me as I've spent time with so many of you, and even in my own life and out in the community, that there's this emotional healthiness in a season in our city where now there's some emotional health that needs to happen. And I'm trusting, hoping that you will be honest with yourself and find a place to be honest. about your stuff, because we all got it, right? So let me give you about 3 things, and then I'm gonna give you time, because I don't want to take any more time. So next catalyst, of course, yeah. Thank you, Cindy. I got you. Come on up, Cindy. Oh my gosh, Cindy, come on up. No, she's terrific. She just went to the teacher's prayer breakfast. A better way to resolve conflict. Marty Villa from Youth for Christ, Wellspring. He does some work with Wellspring, but works for Youth for Christ. Will be working with us next week on a better way to resolve conflict. That's next month, because that's an issue that keeps coming up. And then, come on up, Cindy. Yes, Cindy. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, 2 things. Today is National Day of Prayer. For those of you who may not have realized that, it's National Day of Prayer, the first Thursday of May. And at noon, we're going to have a celebration downtown at City Hall. We did last year. It was the first time I chaired it. And we'd been praying for rain. And we hadn't had rain for months, and it poured on us that day. It was wonderful. We all hid under the portico. So I hope you can join us at noon at City Hall today. We have a lot of city leaders, our police chief, fire chief, Sheriff Adam Christensen. They're all going to pray for us today. So I hope you can join us. And then also June 16th is a Pray Modesto prayer breakfast, and it's held at Big Valley at 7 a.m. And I hope you can join us at that. We've had it here in the past, but this is our 4th annual, and if you need to reserve a seat or a table, see Cheryl Van Horn. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mrs. Marks. Andrew, did I get all the announcements? Did I get them all? National Night Out. We want to keep beating the heck out of you with that. There's some flyers on the table. If you'd like to grab one, you can also go online at lovemodesto.com, and you can do it online. It'll go right to Modesto PD. But we're we're challenging 300 National Night Outs. We had about 180 last year. We're going for 300 in our city. And again, this is going to be us. Just get some cookies, hang out in your driveway, and then to get to know people in your neighborhood, because it's the connectedness. It's you that's going to give life to this city. Let me thank God for you. Master, thank you for these men and women. What a group of life givers that they are. And Master, we know that there are some in here this morning, Ben, that they're just getting the life sucked out of them. And I hope and pray that they will either find somebody to just open up to and be honest, or even now you would prompt a friend to approach them and ask them the question. And then they have a safe place. Thank you for what you're doing in our city and in these men and women. May this always be a growing place of emotional life-givingness. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, good night. We still have time. Hang around.